And welcome on in, folks, to another edition of the WyoNation Postgame Show. I'm your host, Chad Smith, and I am riding solo today, but we'll see about that. Maybe that'll change. And we are here to talk about Wyoming losing on a beautiful day in Laramie by a final score of 27-24 to the San Diego State Aztecs. So, a whole lot to get to in this one. I've got so many notes, so many things we talked about in the preview that did happen, things that didn't happen. And I think overall, this is a pretty frustrating game because it was very winnable. And I'll just lead with the big idea here that we'll get to is that the coaching staff they threw this game away today. Completely just threw it away. In one of the few games they have left on the schedule that was winnable. So I have major questions going forwards, but Wyoming was competitive in the first half, and it kind of came unglued in the second half there. And we'll talk about that all. So welcome on in. If you're on Twitter, you can reply to this and be featured in the chat. But the best place to do it, the easiest place, is on YouTube. Head on over to youtube.com/@WyoNation. where we are live there as well. And there, the chat box is a little friendlier, but it works in both. And that's where we're really here to get your guys' thoughts. I'll be interested in your thoughts on the play of the team today, the coaching, the game decisions. Now, this was a very entertaining college football game. I will give you that. I enjoyed it. The TV announcers enjoyed it. It's just, unfortunately, Wyoming came on the losing side in a game where they gave away so many points. And as we know, this is a team that they have no margin for error. And I don't know if it's a talent issue, a coaching issue, whatever issue you want to say, they really can't make as many mistakes as they did and be competitive and win. And that is just going to be the problem that we have until this team can really control their identity. And then we'll get into, the elephant in the room that nobody really wants to talk about, but we have to. I know in Wyoming, we all want to be nice and be like ho-hum and let's not criticize people, but some criticism was earned today. And that's why we are here. Clint is in the house again. Says that wasn't fun. No, it wasn't. As I said, it was a good college football game, back and forth. So let's see here. I'll flip over to my notes in the first half and we'll look at some stats. But let's just talk about the first half, because I think the first half was very, very good. A lot of good things you saw from Wyoming in the first half. I thought the defense came out with a lot of energy, and they were playing with physicality. So I think what we saw for most of the game was the type of Wyoming defense that we saw under Craig Bohl after he got rid of Standard, was everybody flying to the ball, lots of energy. I think the defense played pretty well today, all things considered. Second half had some hiccups, and we'll talk about that. We saw some creativity. We saw the flea flickers, one that led for touchdown, another one that was dropped. That would have been a huge play as well. So good to see that they're trying to do some different things. And then how about the fake punt? I do believe the fake punt led to was it a touchdown or a field goal? I'll have to look it up. Thought I wrote it down. I tweeted it out for sure. But how about calling a fake punt to a defensive lineman? Has anybody ever seen that in their life? I have not. Pretty risky move there. But J.Y. Williams, wow. Had some motors on them. Direct snap to a defensive tackle. Again, I don't know if you can get away with that again. It opened up for him, and he was probably maybe a step away from getting another 20, 30 yards. So that really kept Wyoming in the game there early. At a halftime, Wyoming was ahead in the yards, 175-159, but the game was tied. So before that, let's backtrack into kind of our preview. When Brad and I were talking about this game, we wanted to see basically 3 or 4 things. The first thing was We wanted to see the Wyoming Cowboys play a clean game of football. Well, obviously, that did not happen. We'll get to more into that later. 2, we wanted to see the tackling improve. In the first half, I thought the tackling was very good. Second half, it wasn't terrible, but there were some key plays in there where they didn't tackle when they have an opportunity to stop people. But overall, I thought the tackling was probably some of the best tackling that we've seen this season so far. We wanted to see them run the ball, and they did that. We'll get into the stats. And then we wanted to see the snaps being fixed. And overall, the snapping was good. Only just one kind of bad snap in the game where Svoboda really didn't handle it too well, and that disrupted a play. But overall, the snapping was good. And then the other thing was penalties and just overall setting the game up, getting lined up properly. Again, Wyoming having problems with that. Several times, Wyoming was making subs with like 10 seconds or less on the play clock, which is insane. It stopped us late in the game from doing some stuff. So, yeah, a lot to get there. I see your comment, Bad Kane, and we'll get to it. We certainly will. So, welcome on in, everybody. Not the game we wanted to see. Just think how different would this season look if Wyoming was 3-3 right now, which they should be. They should have beaten Idaho, and they should have beaten San Diego State today. And in both cases, the main culprits are going to be the coaching staff. For whatever reason, they're not putting their players in the best position to win games. Because they're I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're seeing out there. So let's look at some stats, and then we'll get into it. So I've got this all ready to go. We'll bring it up here, and let me take a look. When you look at the comparison here, pretty even, right? 356 to 371 in the yardage, 254 to 181 in the passing. But what killed Wyoming, obviously, was that fourth quarter passing that San Diego State had. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this again very quickly. I think it's right here. Yep. And you go here. Look at this. 127 passing yards in one quarter. The money quarter. They went 4 of 7 for 7 completions for 127 yards. And they had those 2 touchdowns, I do believe, right? In the fourth quarter there, which absolutely killed Wyoming in the defense. But overall, I thought, again, the defense played well. The defensive line was healthier, and they played better. I think not having your safeties today really hurt Wyoming. Think of Eckler and Wider in there. There's a good chance Wyoming could win this game, even with the coaching problems. But, yeah. So let's look at the good stuff. Again, this is what I don't understand. If we look at home, Wyoming ran the ball very well today. Look at this. They finally start feeding Sam Scott these past couple games. 20 carries, 94 yards. Very, very good. 4.7 a carry. Farrell had 6. I'd have given him a little more. 6 for 24, 4 yards a carry. And obviously, Svoboda took a lot of sacks, but he did have the 51-yard touchdown. That was on the read option. They were faking the read zone left. He pulls it, runs to the right, basically untouched for a 51-yard touchdown, which was a huge play at the time. But overall, you look at it here, 41 rushes compared to 31 passes, and then those right there are some of the ugly numbers. So let's go back here to comparison. Again, another thing, Wyoming does a great job on third downs defensively. 3 of 13 for San Diego State. 5 of 15 offensively, not great, but the defense is doing a great job in third down overall this season as a whole. But the coaching staff had a lot of problems in terms of their game plan, I would say, as well as their game management. At the end there, their game management was not good, and everybody saw it. So, yes, Clint says, Sam Scott is having a great year. He looked really strong today. Yes, he did. He did look very strong. And for whatever reason, right, they didn't feature him early in the year because they said he wasn't up to snuff. But again, if he's carrying the ball against Idaho, we win the game. So again, these are the type of decisions that I'm talking about that I think change games. So yeah, all right, Bad Kane, here we go. He says Svoboda's line was atrocious. 12 of 31 and nearly gave up 2 pick sixes. Is there any chance he'll get benched? I think your answer is pretty clearly no. Pretty clearly no. Because, I mean, yeah, and that's what we're one of the main thing today, right? 12 of 31 today, throwing the ball. 12 of 31. Have you ever seen a quarterback in modern college football go 12 of 31? I haven't. At least not a team that's not running like the triple option. But again, triple option teams aren't throwing the ball 31 times. I don't understand how, if you know that your quarterback, he has no clue where the ball's going when he throws it half the time. It's you're playing the lottery. It could be a good pass. It could be 10 feet over the guy's head. It could be 3 yards inside where it gets picked off. You can't throw the ball that many times with a guy who can't throw. Svoboda is an athlete, and I would say that he's a football player. But right now, he's not a D1 quarterback. And so if Savell wants to hitch his wagon to that, good luck to him. But right now, I haven't seen enough. 12 of 31. Guys wide open, overthrowing him. Now, the wide receivers did drop, maybe 2 or 3 balls today that were good throws. But again, college football, pro football, all football set up these days for passing. And I find the quarterback play is the worst, some of the worst I've ever seen at Wyoming. I mean, let's be honest here. And we saw it during bowl. Terrible quarterback play. At Wyoming, we've seen great quarterbacks. We've seen good quarterbacks. So don't tell us about talent and potential. We can't be living off talent and potential. You need to play somebody who can be productive. And if Svoboda really is the best guy, if he truly does give you your best chance to win, well, then what the heck have you been doing recruiting-wise and developing players all these years? If that's the best person you have in there. And I don't want to bag on Evan. He's being put into the game because the coaches are putting these in these positions. He shouldn't be out there. It's pretty obvious. So, again, if they don't have better options. Yeah, Clint says he easily could have 2 or 3 more picks. Yeah, he threw a couple. I think it was in the fourth quarter. He threw a deep ball that was underthrown. Should have been picked. The guy dropped it. Those deep outs, you can't be throwing those. Both of them were picked. They're terrible. High school quarterback knows he can't make that throw. I thought today, I think it was a guy I've never seen on the broadcast. Guy by the name of Taylor McHargle. I thought he was very good in explaining that. And I'll have to look him up, but he was a quarterback at Rice, apparently. And I thought he did a good job of explaining things. And then, yes, his pocket presence, too. I mean, I understand that he's rattled. But there's a couple times where he wasn't touched and he just fell down. Anticipating contact, having bad awareness, a bad feel. It's just not good enough. But Wyoming still was in this game. But they gave away 10 points on interceptions today. You take those away, Wyoming wins this game. So I don't know what the coaching staff is doing. And then continuing to throw the ball. At one point, he was 11 of 31. It's just mind-boggling to me. Let's check to see if there's any comments on Twitter. Other stuff, I don't see anything. We'll go back to the live here. Make sure everything is still flowing. But, yeah, that's the way I see it there, is that the coaching staff, I thought we were back in the vegan days. Everything was a deep ball. That doesn't help your quarterback who you know isn't accurate. Deep balls do you no good if he can only complete 1 of 10. The only deep ball that he completed was on a flea flicker where the guy was wide open, which was a great play call. and they tried it again. They covered it. The guy dropped it. But if you can't complete those deep passes, you can call 20 of them. But if you're only hitting 2, you're not doing anybody a service. You're not doing him a service. He can't get in rhythm. We're not throwing anything underneath. They got completely away from the concepts that we saw against Air Force. Now, granted, San Diego State could play completely different defense where those concepts were not possible to use, but I highly doubt it. Get him out of the pocket, give him a low read, a high read, but there was like no dump offs. It was all YOLO balls. And half the time he overthrew him. So you can't be throwing. This offense. Jay Johnson, I've had no problem with him through the first 5 games, but I thought today the game plan, the play calls, the execution, terrible by everybody. Absolutely terrible. So I don't know where you go from here. You're 1-5. You lost one of the most winnable games you have left on your schedule through your own coaching and execution. You're going on the road to San Jose State next week. Yes, Clint. Yeah, we'll get to that. You go on the road to San Jose State next week. And then after that, you're at home against Utah State. Now, all these games, none of these teams are world beaters, but if you're not going to be, I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard for me to have much hope when they keep saying these things about how they're going to fix things. And they did. They fixed some things today. But other things cropped up. All right. Clint says, need to take the number 17 from the entire team. Both kids struggled mightily. Yeah. Let's just talk about that while we're here. If I have to hear another comparison to Josh Allen, I'm going to go nuts and I'm going to rip my TV off the wall. Can we stop the comparisons between Svoboda and Josh Allen? They are not alike other than in stature. And I think Wyoming did him a disservice. When he asked for the number 17, they should have said, no, we're not giving you the number 17. Because all we have to hear about is, another 17 who's big and strong. Now, Svoboda, hell of an athlete. But he's got to be able to play quarterback. And they're not giving him the coaching or the development he needs to be able to play quarterback at a level needed in the Mountain West Conference. That's pretty clear. I don't think there's anybody who can say otherwise. If you can, please tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm missing. I'll listen to anybody. But saying he gives us the best chance to win is not an acceptable answer at this point in time. You can't find somebody who can complete more than 30% of their passes? Seems pretty hard for me to believe that we don't have somebody out there that we could recruit that can complete more than 30% of their passes. And again, a lot of that is coaching. It's like with Vegan. And there we go. Even the dog is upset. Hey, quiet. Quiet, doggy dog. See, even the dog says, no, don't do it. So, yeah, I think some conversations need to be had. Quiet. 1 second. Quiet. You're okay. Stop. There we go. See, even the dog is angry over the Pokes performance today. But yeah, I think Rodney's in the house. Hey, good to see you, Rodney. Very good. Coaching had many errors. Yes. Yeah, no, they're the reason. Again, I'm criticizing players. But again, I understand these are college kids. But the coaches are the ones who get paid large amounts of money. They're the highest paid, some of the highest paid employees in the state of Wyoming. And they aren't putting these kids in their best position to succeed. That is 100% the case. So, again, Wyoming should be 3-3 if they had average coaching. The Idaho game and this game, terrible. Absolutely terrible coaching. Throwing 2 games away. And again, it may not matter. I don't know. I want this coaching staff to be successful because I understand that they enjoy Laramie. They like Laramie. They would stick around. But again, as we've said many times, I think Tom Berman chasing continuity for continuity's sake is not always the best option. And after a 1-5 start, you can say, hey, we have a bright future. Well, show it to me. We need to start seeing development, improvement. And I think we saw again a lot today, but from the quarterback play and the system they build around him. Again, let's see here, wide receiver wise. Let's bring this up. A lot of people asking, where the heck was Chris Durr? I don't think he had a catch. He had one target, I think, and I think it was on a penalty. But again, look at this. Gillenborg, 8 targets to Gillenborg. Sargent had the flea flicker. Again, King, not one screen pass to him. Or maybe they did. He had 19. That must have been one of the screens. Okay. Not a jet sweep to him. Again, get the ball to your playmakers. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Question from David. David says, is the transfer portal being used enough by the coaches? Do we have the players? No, that's something that you could point out, right? I think that we should use the portal more, like they did when they brought in the cornerbacks from the Power 5 schools. If you're not going to develop players, then you need to bring some in. So good question, David. And speaking about the portal, it was announced before the game. Wyoming did lose 2 players for personal reasons. One, Clemens, the backup quarterback. Not a surprise. I don't know what's going on there. But the other one, kind of surprised, a wide receiver, Devin Body Jr., a transfer from Texas Tech. He played 4 games, was hurt last week, and now he's gone. So, again, the magic number is 4. If you play over 4, you can't redshirt. So I would imagine Devin Body Jr. played his 4 games, was hurt, now out of the program, will certainly be hitting the portal. And if Wyoming doesn't win more games this year, you're going to see a whole lot. So, again, Wyoming, the main reason they stuck with Savell was to avoid from players hitting the portal. And in the end, if they have like a 2 or 3 win season, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a lot of players hitting the portal. So you can't be afraid of the portal at this point in time. The portal is the portal. People are going to enter it. You just have to have a plan to navigate it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, folks? More comments, please. More questions. Get into that chat. Let me know. I want to hear what you have to say. But we'll talk. Until then, I'll talk more about the quarterback play. Again, it's very clear that Evans Svoboda, he can make one read. And if his first read is not open, the play is pretty much dead. And that's what happened on the 2 picks. He just throws to his first read pretty much no matter what. You never see him looking left and looking right. The few times we saw Anderson in the game, you could see him scanning the field. With Svoboda, it's one read, and then the play is basically over if that guy's covered. He'll take the sack. He'll try to run out of there. But, yeah. Against Air Force, again, they had a plan in place. They had a plan in place in the second half, and it worked. And I don't know why they got away from those concepts. Bennett is in the house. Why so much patience in Svoboda? And I don't know. We'll have to see. Again, we'll have to see what Savell says in this postgame. Very interesting. Because what else can he say, right? He's blamed players. He's blamed himself. Said things are going to get fixed. He says Svoboda has a lot of potential, and he may. But he's a junior. You're halfway through your junior season, so he's got 6 games, I think, to prove that they shouldn't bring in another quarterback next year. They handed him the job sight unseen, right? That's another reminder. The first day Savell got the job, he announced Svoboda as the starting quarterback, which I think was a mistake. I would have brought in, and this is an armchair quarterback. You could ask all the rest of the guys at WyoNation. I was saying, you need to go bring in a transfer. You need to go to the portal and get yourself a quarterback who's played and have an actual battle. And these decisions are now coming home to roost. So thank you, Bennett. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. we'll see what Salvel has to say in the postgame to see if they're really going to open things up. I think every job on the team should be open. But for the most part, I'll say, right, the running backs look good today. I thought the offensive line was doing really well until they had more injuries. I mean, how many more injuries can you have? Khan goes down with a knee injury, it looked like. Wyoming was on their third string guard, guy who's never played in a game before. So again, the injuries are a factor, but they can't be used as a main excuse because we're seeing problems that we saw in game 1 and game 6. So we're halfway through the season now. So again, if these problems are still happening, either you're coaching it or you're allowing it. So I don't know what else to say. Yeah, so 10 points by interceptions off the board. And then how about my boy Red Shoe Man? Missing another kick. He made a 42-yarder, but missed the 50-yarder. And I think after starting, I looked up the stats. I think he was like an 80% or better kicker in his first 2 years. But in his junior year and his senior year right now, he's only making 2/3 of his kicks, 66%. And that's really hurting this team. 3 points today could have made all the difference, obviously. That 50-yard kick. Bad Kane says if they're going to insist on Sabota, it seems they should run him much more. Yeah. He's not a drop-back quarterback, at least in the system they're running him in. Against Air Force, he did pretty good. Or, again, as I said before, if you want to run the system, if passing doesn't matter, then run the triple option. Just run the triple option with him. He'd be great. Think if Air Force had him. My goodness. It'd be unstoppable. Another question. David says, maybe alternate QBs of the coaching staff is still... Well, I know, yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, today wasn't too bad because the offense was moving the ball, but we saw other games where they're doing nothing. But, I mean, you throw 2 interceptions that lead to 10 points in the first quarter. It's going to be hard for you to win that game. And unfortunately, Wyoming loses by 3 when they gave away 13 points if you count the missed extra or the missed 50-yarder, which, right, I won't. A 50-yarder is a hard kick. I understand, even in Laramie. But the mismanagement was not great. Let's see. Post-bye, outcoached at home. Got to have another option to throw. Let the big kid run, and then 3rd and short. Yeah. Basically, we have a running back playing quarterback. He's got a strong arm, but it doesn't do you any good if you don't know where it's going. But I would be shocked if they had a change in tune because he's played worse, I guess. Today, I guess still pretty bad. I guess the numbers kind of hide it. Right? If you go here. Oop, I'm on special teams. Let's go home. 181 yards. But 70 of those came on the flea flicker. 39% completion percentage. I mean, oof. So, let's see. As for injuries, does Wyoming have more injuries than opponents? I would say so. We talked about it. I've never seen so many injuries, and it looks like they got a few more today. We'll have to see. People came back. But that's still not an excuse to go 1-5. Doesn't it make sense for Seville to tie himself to Sabota, roll with Anderson when people are more patient? He's a freshman. Yeah. No, I think at some point you would, but at the same time, right, you got to know what the position is. Tom Berman's not going to fire a guy after 1 year. He's probably not going to fire a guy after 2 bad years because we've seen it, right, with other coaches in other sports. So as long as Tom Berman is the AD, Savell is safe. But it still it doesn't make him sense to hitch himself to Svoboda. Because either, okay, if he's so good, then you are failing him as a coach, which he did today by letting him throw the ball 31 times when it was obvious he had no clue where the ball was going to go once it released his hand. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I thought overall Wyoming played pretty well. Just quarterback play cost him today, play calling today cost him today, game management cost him today, and then the secondary in the fourth quarter where they gave up 127 yards. Because defensively, I think that's what we would like to see. Dastardly Dan is in. Hello there, buddy. Good to see you. So, yeah, a lot of questions coming off a bye week. They cleaned up a lot of stuff. Again, the snapping was better. The running game looked good. But still, a lot of the problems that we saw didn't get clean. And they probably, right, honestly, through 6 games, they're not going to get clean. So the team is what the team is. The rest of the schedule scares me. This is a good team that is poorly led. I don't know if they could be good. Could be average. I don't know if they're good. They could be an average to above average team with proper coaching. Dastardly Dan says QB play has been a nightmare. Yeah, Wyoming has had a big time problem developing QBs. And yeah, Peasley came in. Kind of struggled a little bit when he first came in, but after that, although very unorthodox, dude was a baller. And he put up the best numbers we've seen since Josh Allen. And then really the only other quarterback in the bowl era that was put up decent numbers, believe it or not, was Colby Kierkegaard. But other than that, quarterback play, abysmal. Abysmal quarterback play. So that's where we're at. So 1-5. Heading to San Jose State, who lost to the Sheep today. The Sheep beat them in Fort Collins and then 1 touchdown game. So Wyoming will have to go on the road and clean some stuff up. But we all know how they played on the road this year and last year. So that's going to be an uphill battle, I do believe. But what are the thoughts? Am I being too harsh? I don't think so. I'm just trying to be honest here. Because I know a lot of people will dance around this, right? But serious questions need to be asked. And hopefully, David says, are we sure Whaley is going to be playing this season for the 4 games? There's a good question. Now, I was highly suspicious of this and thought that, well, even if he does play 4 games, right, he may hit the portal. And that's the big question. I think he probably will. Sounds like Utah State is going to be the target for him for his first game, which is in, 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. And then that would give him 1, 2, 3, 5 games and 4 to play. Now, if you saw when we beat Air Force, the first person running out the field giving Savell a hug was Whaley. So again, he could still hit the portal and go play for a winning team next year, but he could stick around because it's reported that he has a very good relationship with Savell, and what I saw in the Air Force game would prove that. But we'll see. I mean, having Whaley back would be very helpful, obviously, but Sam Scott's been doing a good job. But again, if your quarterback can only complete 30% of his passes, it doesn't really matter who you have back there. Unless you're going to give Whaley and Scott, 30 carries apiece, which we might have to do. I don't know. It's just really disappointing, as you all know. So, yeah. So I think we'll leave it at that. Hey, Rashawn is in. Good to see you, man. Welcome on in. Yeah, I mean, it won't hurt. Getting another quarterback in there won't hurt. as we said, even for a series or two a game, I think people would be happy with that. Open things up because Savota's not playing at a level to where he's like undroppable, right? David says Graham Yankee gave lots of hugs too. Well, that's true. He did. Yeah, he was great in the community, right? So, yeah, I don't know. So on Whaley, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I think, yeah, you're going to see Wyoming made this coaching decision to avoid the portal or mass portal exit. And I think in the end, they're going to get a mass portal exit. So they took a risk, a gamble, and it very well may backfire. Because I don't know. We'll see what this team does. At least they played hard. It's just too many mistakes and too many coaching errors and too many scheme decisions that did not put the players in their best decision to succeed, especially in the second half. So it's basically all I have. Good to do these shows. Glad to see everybody. But unless you have more questions, I think we'll call it good. And then next week, we will be doing our midseason report card. Since we're 6 games in, we'll compare what we gave our grades, our position grades by position groups. We will go through and compare what we predicted and then see what the midterm grade is to see where Wyoming can improve. And obviously, with a 1-5 record, there is a lot of room for improvement. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for tuning on in. Sorry it wasn't back-to-back victories. That would have been nice. But yeah, let's monitor what Saville had to say in the postgame. See what he has to say on Monday in the presser. And we'll go from there. But yeah, this coaching staff has to take a hard look at what they're doing. And they supposedly did that in the bye week. And I think defensively it worked. But offensively, I think they were trying to do too much. So we'll see what happens. But thank you for catching on into this stream. Don't forget, head on to WyoNation.com for all your message board activity. Great community there of Wyoming fans. And yeah, we'll be back midweek next week with a report card on the midseason. So until then, everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch you all later.